Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something fundamental.
Hmm.
The forces, shaping our everyday decisions, how we interact with each other. It's about understanding yourself and others, maybe in a new way.
Yeah, the hidden stuff that drives us.
Exactly. Our focus is social psychology, sometimes called the study of the social animal. We're looking at some really core research here, some seminal work.
Absolutely. And it's packed with surprises. You think you know why people act the way they do,
Mhm.
but the science often shows something w different,
Or counterintuitive, yeah.
right? And our mission really is to distill all that down, pull out the key insights so you, the listener, can get a solid handle on the how and why behind our behavior.
Mhm.
We want you to leave with real understanding.
Not just facts, yeah. Okay, so let's get started. This whole exploration, we all have theories about why people do things, don't we?
We do.
Oh, they're just lazy, or, she's always like that. In a way, we're all kind of amateur social psychologists,
Yeah.
right?
We're making guesses constantly. We're sense-making machines. But that's exactly why the scientific approach is, well, crucial. Casual observation. It can be flawed.
How so?
Well, take hindsight bias. That classic, I knew it all along feeling.
Oh, right, after an election or something.
Exactly.
Uh,
Once you know the outcome, suddenly it seems obvious, predictable. You convince yourself you saw it coming, even if you really didn't. Makes discoveries seem less surprising after the fact.
so it can be misleading.
Hugely. The sources point out examples where common sense is just plain wrong, like the idea that harsher punishment works better.
Yeah.
Research often shows mild punishment can be more effective for actually changing long-term behavior. Our gut feelings, they can definitely lead us astray sometimes.
Okay, so our brains, they're amazing, but you're saying they're also kind of lazy, cognitive misers.
Huh. Well, efficient, maybe. Yeah. They love shortcuts, rules of thumb, to save mental energy. It's usually helpful. But those same shortcuts can, trip us up.
Lead to errors.
Precisely. And this is deeply rooted in our evolution. Our brains adapted brilliantly for small hunter-gatherer groups. Those mental shortcuts were vital for survival then.
But now.
But now, in our super complex modern world, they can backfire. Think about Robin Dunbar's work on group size.
The 150 number.
Yeah, linking neocortex size to a sort of natural group limit around 150.
Yeah.
It helps explain why smaller teams or organizations often just function better. Less cognitive overload, maybe?
Okay, this is really interesting. This idea that bad is stronger than good. What's that about?
It's an evolutionary hangover, essentially. We're wired to be more alert to threats, dangers, failures. It kept our ancestors alive.
Makes sense.
But it means negative experiences often hit us harder, stick around longer than positive ones. One bad review can outweigh 10 good ones, right?
Yeah, I feel that. And what about the spotlight effect? Feeling like everyone's noticing your bad hair day.
Exactly. We vastly overestimate how much others pay attention to our flaws.
Mm-hmm.
That Barry Manilow t-shirt experiment is a classic example. Most people didn't even notice it.
We're the center of our own universe.
Pretty much. And our minds have these two main ways of thinking. There's the automatic system, fast, unconscious, super efficient, like driving a familiar route. Jonathan Haidt thinks it's maybe 99% of our thinking. Then there's the control system, slow, conscious, effortful, takes energy. That's why real multitasking, like texting and driving, is basically impossible to do well. Your conscious attention just can't split effectively.
Right.
And even when we're not focused on anything specific, our brain's default mode network kicks in. And what does it think about? Usually social stuff.
Like playing with friends or...
Or replaying an argument, thinking about relationships. We are fundamentally social beings. It's our default state.
And part of that social wiring involves this us versus them thing, doesn't it? We exaggerate differences.
We do, automatically. Our own group, the in-group we see as individuals, the out-group, they become all the same. It can even affect perception, like making it harder to distinguish faces from other racial groups.
And we really don't like uncertainty, do we?
Hate it. We have this deep need to understand, to predict. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, even stressful. Like in that experiment where people preferred knowing a shock was coming, even if it was unpleasant, over unpredictable shocks.
Control, or the illusion of it.
Exactly.
Right.
And all these things, biases, shortcuts, the need for certainty, they tie back to core social motives. Things like belonging, understanding, control, feeling useful, trust. When these motives get warped, that's often when you see behaviors that seem, well, irrational or confusing.
Okay, so we have these built-in biases, these shortcuts, but then there's this other layer, actively justifying our own choices, even when they're maybe not great.
Ah, yes. Self-justification is a really powerful drive. We want to maintain our self-esteem, feel like we're good, smart, sensible people.
Even if it means bending reality a bit.
Even if it means bending reality quite a lot sometimes. This is Leon Fessinger's big idea. Cognitive dissonance.
Dissonance, okay.
It's that uncomfortable feeling, that tension you get when you hold two conflicting ideas, beliefs, or when your behavior contradicts your beliefs, like smoking while knowing it's harmful.
Right. So you have to resolve that tension somehow.
Exactly. It's motivating, like hunger or thirst. You have to reduce the dissonance. So the smoker might downplay the health risks or decide smoking is crucial for their relaxation or even adopt a kind of rebellious self-image. Anything to make the inconsistency feel less inconsistent
So you change your belief to match your action.
or change how you perceive the action. It can get pretty irrational. Think about political debates. People who are already committed to one side, when they see mixed evidence, they often end up more convinced they were right all along.
How does that work?
They tend to remember the arguments that support their view as being really strong and logical, and the arguments against their view as being weak or flawed. It fuels polarization.
And this connects to justification of effort, too, like hazing rituals.
Perfect example. If you go through a really difficult, embarrassing, or even painful initiation to join a group,
You need to believe it was worth it.
precisely. So you convince yourself the group is fantastic, maybe even better than it really is, to justify the suffering you endured. The effort itself makes you value the outcome more.
That has some dark sides, though.
Absolutely. Dehumanization is a key part of it in conflicts. If you can convince yourself the enemy are vermin or less than human, it makes cruelty easier to justify. We saw this with rumors after the Kent State shootings attempts to justify the violence by denigrating the victims.
So for leaders, this can be a real trap, like getting stuck defending a bad decision.
A huge trap. Think about Lyndon Johnson in Vietnam or George Bush in Iraq, according to the sources. Once committed, it becomes incredibly hard to admit error because you're constantly justifying the past decisions. That's why having advisors who aren't afraid to dissent, like Lincoln reportedly did, is so important.
It makes it hard to apologize, too, doesn't it?
Very. Because deep down, you've often convinced yourself you didn't really do anything wrong. You're too busy justifying. It blocks personal growth, damages relationships.
Okay, so our individual minds twist and turn. But what happens when we get into groups? Conformity. That's a huge force.
It really is. The sources mention this incredible story, the Columbus running panic. One person starts running, then another, and soon a whole section of the city thinks a dam broke. It shows how fast emotional contagion and conformity can spread.
Just like that. Wow. But why do we conform so easily?
Well, the research points to two main drivers. First, informational influence. We look to others for clues about reality, especially when things are ambiguous. We assume they know something we don't.
Makes sense.
But the second one, normative influence, is maybe even more powerful. It's the desire to be liked, to fit in, to avoid disapproval or rejection.
Even if we know the group is wrong.
Even then. Solomon Ash's classic experiment showed this perfectly. People looking at lines on a card.
Oh yeah, the line length one?
Right. Confederates gave obviously wrong answers. And about 3/4 of the real participants conformed at least once, just to go along with the group. No explicit pressure, just the discomfort of standing out.
That's unsettling.
It is. And it can scale up into groupthink. That's when the desire for group harmony overrides a realistic look at the facts. Think Watergate, where the Challenger disaster situations where dissent was suppressed, leading to terrible decisions.
And then there's the bystander effect, why people don't help in emergencies.
Yeah, linked to diffusion of responsibility. The more people present, the less any single person feels responsible for acting. The tragic Kitty Genovese case is the textbook example. Everyone assumes someone else will call the police.
So responsibility just vanishes into the crowd.
It diffuses. And related to that is pluralistic ignorance. That's when people privately disagree with something, but assume incorrectly that most other people accept it. So they go along publicly.
Like in a confusing lecture where nobody asks a question.
Exactly. Everyone's lost, but thinks they're the only one. Or think about binge drinking norms on campus. Studies show students often overestimate how much their peers actually approve of heavy drinking. Correcting those misperceptions can actually reduce the behavior.
And we have to mention Milgram's obedience study here, too.
Absolutely. The shock experiments, showing how far people will go in obeying an authority figure, even when told to inflict pain. It's a stark reminder of the power of authority in the situation.
Okay, let's shift to how we're influenced more broadly. Mass communication, persuasion. propaganda even.
It's everywhere, isn't it? And technology plays a huge role. Think about smartphones. They're addictive, sure, but the sources mention research showing their mere presence can hurt your cognitive performance.
Just sitting on the table.
Just sitting there. Students did worse on hard tasks when their phone was visible, even if turned off. It subtly pulls your attention.
Wow. And how does media shape our views more generally?
Often indirectly. By deciding what gets covered, what stories get told. Often prioritizing drama or conflict. If it bleeds, it leads. This can give us a skewed view of the world, like making us overestimate crime rates.
Which leads to the tricky line between education and propaganda, or fake news.
It's often in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? Depends on your values. One person's health campaign is another's fear-mongering. And we've seen how easily fake stories, like that fake Trump quote or the Pizzagate conspiracy, can spread and have real consequences because they tap into existing beliefs and social networks.
So how does persuasion actually work on us?
Well, Petty and Cacioppo identified two main routes. The central route is when you carefully consider the arguments, weigh the evidence, thinking systematically.
Like researching a car purchase.
Right. Then there's the peripheral route, where you're swayed by simpler cues, often irrelevant ones, like a celebrity endorsing that car, or how attractive the salesperson is. Less thinking involved.
The source matters too, right? Who is telling us?
Definitely. Credibility is huge, expertise, trustworthiness.
Yeah.
But also just liking the person, finding them attractive or similar to us. That's why celebrity endorsements work. Even if we know they're paid, we connect with them.
And emotional appeals. Fear.
Very effective. Fear can grab attention and motivate change, like those graphic anti-smoking ads. But other emotions work too. Moral outrage can spur political action. Guilt can drive charitable donations. Emotions are powerful persuaders.
It's also mentioned that stories often beat statistics.
Yes. A single, vivid personal story or anecdote, like one terrible Yelp review, can often have more impact than tons of data showing the opposite. Our brains seem wired for narrative.
So how do we resist unwanted persuasion?
One technique is the inoculation effect. If you're exposed to weak versions of arguments against your beliefs and you practice refuting them, you become more resistant, sort of immunized when you encounter stronger attacks later.
Building up defenses. Okay, now let's tackle a really tough one. Aggression. Where does it come from? Are we naturally aggressive?
That's the age-old question, isn't it? Like, are we more like aggressive chimps or peaceful bonobos? The evidence suggests we have evolutionary predispositions for both cooperation and conflict. It's complicated.
Culture plays a big role, though.
A huge role. It shapes how, when, and why aggression is expressed. Think about cultures of honor, common in places like the American South. Insults are taken more seriously, leading to higher rates of violence in response to perceived slights.
What are some key triggers for aggression?
Well, alcohol is a big one. It lowers inhibitions. And interestingly, there's the think-drink effect. Just believing you've consumed alcohol can make you more aggressive.
Expectation matters.
It does. Heat is another factor. Crime rates tend to rise with temperature. Rejection and social exclusion are incredibly potent triggers too, especially for young people. Think about the link between school bullying, ostracism, and sadly school shootings.
That poisonous atmosphere.
Exactly. Frustration is a classic cause, but specifically relative deprivation, feeling deprived compared to what you expect or what others have. That seems to fuel more anger than absolute poverty alone.
And just seeing weapons.
The weapons effect, yeah.
Yeah.
The mere presence of a gun can increase aggressive thoughts and behavior. It's like the trigger primes aggressive responses. Then there's de-individuation, losing your sense of self in a crowd, which can lead to more impulsive, sometimes violent acts.
And media violence. Video games.
The research consistently shows a link. Playing violent video games can increase hostile thoughts, aggressive feelings, and behaviors, at least in the short term. It also fosters a hostile attribution bias, seeing ambiguous actions as hostile, and magnifies our perception of danger in the world.
So how can we reduce violence? What works?
Well, surprisingly, mild punishment can be more effective than severe punishment for internalizing values. If a child refrains from hitting their sibling due to a mild threat, they have to justify it to themselves. I didn't hit because it's wrong, not just because I'll get spanked hard.
Internal justification again.
Right. Modeling non-aggression is also key, seeing others resolve conflict peacefully. And building empathy. Programs like Norma Feshbach's, teaching kids to see things from others' perspectives, have shown real success in reducing aggression. Also, simply teaching altruism and mindfulness can help. Doing good feels good, and mindfulness helps us pause before reacting aggressively.
Let's move from aggression to prejudice. Another heavy topic. How is it defined here?
Prejudice is basically a negative attitude toward a group, based purely on their membership in that group. It has feelings, beliefs, stereotypes, and behavioral tendencies tied to it.
And stereotypes. Even positive ones can be bad.
They can. The model minority stereotype for Asian Americans, for instance, lumps diverse groups together, ignores challenges, and can be used to dismiss struggles of other minorities. And things like benevolent sexism, seemingly positive stereotypes about women being nurturing or needing protection, still reinforce traditional roles and limit opportunities.
It's the emotional part of prejudice that's really stubborn, isn't it?
That's Gordon Allport's key insight. Defeated intellectually, prejudice lingers emotionally. You can argue against stereotypes, but the negative feeling often remains. That's why people can hold contradictory stereotypes about the same group, whatever fits the negative emotion at the time.
And this relates to implicit bias, the stuff we're not even aware of.
Exactly. The implicit association test, or IAT, tries to measure these unconscious associations. People can be genuinely shocked to find they hold biases they consciously reject, like Malcolm Gladwell's own experience mentioned in the sources. These biases can influence behavior without our awareness.
What are the roots of prejudice? Where does it come from?
Several sources. Economic and political competition is one. When groups compete for jobs or resources, prejudice often flares up. Think anti-immigrant sentiment.
A scapegoat.
Yes, displaced aggression. Blaming a powerless group for society's problems. Demagogues are masters at this. Maintaining self-image is another. Putting down another group can make your own group feel superior, justifying privilege or even cruelty. And simple conformity, just absorbing the prejudice norms of your society through laws, customs, or just social pressure.
And prejudice can actually create its own reality.
Through self-fulfilling prophecies, yes. If you expect someone to be unfriendly because of their group, you might act coolly towards them, causing them to respond in kind, confirming your bias. And stereotype threat is related when people are aware of a negative stereotype about their group's abilities. The anxiety of confirming it can actually impair their performance.
Like the studies on Black students and standardized tests.
Precisely. Or white male engineers performing worse on math tests when reminded of stereotypes about Asian students' math skills.
So how do we fight prejudice? What actually works?
The contact hypothesis, just putting groups together, isn't enough. It can even backfire if there's competition or unequal status.
So what's needed?
Cooperation and interdependence are key. That's the genius of the Jigsaw classroom.
Explain that again quickly.
Instead of competing, students depend on each other to learn. Each student gets one piece of the lesson and has to teach it to the others in their group. It forces them to listen, cooperate, see each other as individuals, not just group members, like the story of Carlos, where Anglo kids had to learn to work with him. It builds empathy and breaks down that us versus them mentality. Really powerful stuff.
Okay, from conflict and division, let's turn to connection. Liking, loving our relationships.
A fundamental human need. Maybe the fundamental need after basic survival. That Harvard study, 75 years. The big conclusion was crystal clear. Good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period.
So what draws us together? What makes us like someone?
The simplest theory is reward cost. We like people who give us maximum reward at minimum cost. Sounds a bit calculating, but it covers a lot.
Like what factors?
Well, proximity is huge. Just being physically near someone increases the chances of connection. Similarity is another big one. Shared interests, values, attitudes. We like people who are like us.
Physical attraction.
It matters, definitely, more than people sometimes admit, and for both men and women, especially initially. Think dating apps. And it can create a self-fulfilling prophecy. We treat attractive people better, so they often respond more warmly.
And we like people who like us, right?
Absolutely. Believing someone likes you makes you act more likable towards them, which then makes them actually like you more. It's a positive feedback loop. Unless you're very insecure, then it can get complicated.
What about this paradox of choice in modern dating?
Yeah, having seemingly endless options, like on dating apps, can actually lead to paralysis. You're always wondering if someone better is just a swipe away. It raises expectations for perfection and can lead to less satisfaction with the choice you finally make.
And praise, favors, when do they work?
Genuine praise feels good, but flattery can backfire if it seems insincere or like it has an ulterior motive. The sources even mention negging, that weird tactic of giving a mild insult to lower someone's self-esteem and make them seek your approval.
Ugh. Okay, types of relationships. Exchange versus communal.
Right. Exchange relationships are more like scorekeeping tit for tat, common in business or with casual acquaintances. Communal relationships, typical of close friends or romantic partners, operate on trust and long-term equity. You help because you care, trusting it'll balance out over time. Trying to keep score in a communal relationship, like with a prenup sometimes, can undermine the intimacy.
And love itself, passionate versus companionate.
Yeah, passionate love is that intense, often short-lived state of arousal and absorption. Companionate love is the deeper, steadier affection, trust, and warmth we feel for those whose lives are intertwined with ours. Most long-term relationships involve a shift from passionate to companionate love. Haidt warns about rushing into commitment during that peak passionate phase.
How we think about love matters too. Soulmate versus journey.
It does. Believing love is a journey, something you build, tends to lead to better conflict resolution than believing you just have to find your one perfect soulmate. And attachment styles, formed in childhood, affect our adult relationships too. But the good news is, a secure partner can help an insecure partner become more secure over time.
So what's the key to making relationships thrive?
Authenticity and communication seem critical. Being able to express your true feelings, vulnerabilities. That example of Phil and Alice arguing Phil feels insecure about Alice's flirting, but expresses it as criticism. You're so inconsiderate.
That just leads to defensiveness.
Instead of saying how he feels.
Exactly. The crucial skill is expressing feelings, I feel hurt, I feel worried, rather than judgments, you're wrong, you're selfish. Feelings are about you, judgments are accusations about the other person, and they rarely lead anywhere good.
Okay, we've covered a lot about what social psychology tells us, but how do psychologists figure this stuff out? The science behind it. Right, the methodology. The sources use a great example, the author questioning whether prison college programs really caused low recidivism, or if the inmates who signed up were already different, more motivated.
Correlation isn't causation.
The classic mantra.
Or
That's why experiments are the gold standard. They allow you to manipulate one thing, the independent variable, and see its effect on another, the dependent variable, while controlling everything else. That lets you get closer to establishing cause and effect.
like that initiation study, Aronson Mill.
Perfect example. The independent variable was the severity of the initiation, mild versus severe. The dependent variable was how much the participants liked the group afterward. By controlling the situation, they could show that suffering more caused greater liking for the group, supporting the cognitive dissonance theory.
And experiments need to feel real.
Yes, that's experimental realism. Participants need to take it seriously, be engaged, react naturally. It doesn't have to look like everyday life. That's mundane realism. Milgram's obedience study wasn't like everyday life, but it felt intensely real to the participants.
Sometimes deception is needed too, like in Ash's study.
Often, yes. If participants know the true purpose, they might change their behavior, try to be helpful, or look good. So mild deception is sometimes used, followed by careful debriefing afterward to explain everything and ensure no harm was done. Ethics are hugely important.
And findings need to be replicated, right? We can't just trust one study.
Absolutely critical.
Right.
Especially for surprising or splashy findings like the power-posing research initially. Science is self-correcting, and replication, seeing if other researchers get the same results, is a key part of that. Always ask, has this been replicated?
So wrapping this up, we've really gone deep into these hidden forces, biases, conformity, persuasion, dissonance that shapes so much of our lives.
Yeah, it really highlights how much of our behavior is driven by our social nature, by these evolved tendencies, both the helpful and the not-so-helpful ones. It underscores the need for critical thinking, questioning our own assumptions.
And hopefully understanding these ideas gives you, the listener, some tools. Tools to navigate your own social world a bit more wisely, maybe build better relationships, be less susceptible to manipulation.
It's about becoming a more informed social animal.
Definitely. So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given how deeply this social wiring influences everything, from what you buy to who you love, what's one area in your life where applying this kind of social psychology lens might offer a completely new, maybe even surprising perspective?